I'm Jesse McAnally.
And I'm Andrew DeWolf.
And I'm Brianna Jones.
And I'm Adam Wachter.
And welcome to Musicals with Cheese, a podcast where I try to get Andrew and Brie to like musical theater. I remembered from the last time we had him on, he wanted to do it. So I gave him the time to finally introduce himself with us normies. I want to welcome this week's very special guest. You mostly probably know him as a guest on Musicals with Cheese. He hasn't done anything else. But in case you have seen him from anything else, he's the composer
That's
of...
That's probably true at this point. That's the thing.
He's the host of well, not the host. He is the composer of Tarrytown, which is one of my favorite musicals of all time. Like, it's a great, great show. You will also recognize him from Disney
one out
Plus.
too. It's great.
Just rub one out. You will also remember him from Encore on Disney Plus, which is honestly one of the greatest things on Disney Plus. I hope they get a second season one of these days when theater comes back. Here's hoping. Come do my production of Into the Woods. Like that'll be a fun time.
Okay.
It's Adam Wachter, everyone.
Hi. Well, you know what I was going to say is, do you know what I'm watching on Disney Plus now that I'm loving? On Point. Is anybody watching it?
I have started the first episode. I have not gotten past that.
I love it. It's like Cheer, but it's the School of American Ballet in New York, and it's just fascinating. They work so hard. It's like little kids, and then they become high schools. Remember, you've seen Center Stage, I assume. It's like Center Stage, but real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like Black Swan, but real.
Yeah.
And Adam, you are actually entering an exclusive club today that only one other person has ever entered.
Ooh,
you are entering the Five-Timer Club today.
Oh, the
Five-Timer Club.
I've not been on 5 times.
You have been on 5 times. Do we want to go through it? We did with Brett
Jess,
last
is it
time
true?
Too.
Are you sure about this?
I am sure. First time, Merrily. All right, that was the first time.
Oh, I forgot about Merrily. Yeah, okay.
Then you came on for Hello Dolly, and we also interviewed you. Those were 2 separate episodes.
Oh, I didn't realize those were separate episodes.
And there's one more in between there. And this brings us to 5. Because, of course, we did Tarrytown, and now this.
That's 5.
That's 5. Oh, wow.
So, Adam, I am going to ask you to send me your address over text, not over on the air, and you will be receiving a fabulous gift.
What is it?
And you will find out when it arrives, sir. But welcome to the Five-Timers Club. And applause.
Oh, my God. This is the first thing I've won in years.
So what do you have anything to say to yourself? What's your acceptance speech?
Well, I just want to thank, the both of you for having me on 5 times, obviously.
Really, you couldn't
Jesse,
have done it without us.
All your support. No, I really couldn't have. I'd like to thank
All right, he's gone too long. Play him off. Start the music.
My
Get him
empty
off.
schedule
Get him off
for
the stage.
allowing me to participate this many times.
Da-da-da.
No, thank you.
Sorry,
wow. What an honor.
Supposed to go to Moonlight. But no, Adam, we really love having you on. You're one of our favorite guests, and this will not be the last time you're on either. This is always a joy to have you on. And now that we've stalled for nearly 5 minutes, 5 minutes of an episode wasted on this, Adam, what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about First Daughter Suite.
Cue the music, Brie.
Do you know what I want most when my daughter is gone to sleep?
When the pundits on the TV shows have mocked my hair and hats and clothes.
When the gossip monger cease to buzz over ancient news that never was. When I've been debriefed, detoxed, deplaned. When I've tallied weight that's lost or gained. Do you know what I want? Do you know what I want? In a house that will never be a home.
The First Daughter Suite is a musical with music, lyrics, and book by Michael John LaChiusa. The First Daughter Suite is a musical with music, lyrics, and book by Michael John LaChiusa, based on the Daughters of the President. It premiered off-Broadway at the Public Theater under the direction of Christy Sanderson on October 6, 2015.
Kirsten Sanderson.
First Daughter Suite is a musical with music, lyrics, and book by Michael John LaChiusa, based on the Daughters of the President. It premiered off-Broadway at the Public Theater on October 21st, 2015, and it closed on November 22nd of 2015. It was nominated for 7 Drama Desk Awards, the plot of which is a historical fantasia in 4 parts. The first daughter suite follows Patricia Nixon and the daughters Trisha and Julie, Rosalind and Amy Carter, Betty and Susan Ford, Patty Davis and mom Nancy Reagan, and Barbara Bush and the daughter-in-law, Laura, as they strive to live in meaningful lives in the public eye. So,
what does that mean, based on the daughters of the president? What is that?
I don't fucking know. That's what Wikipedia said. It wasn't even like a book. It was based on the daughters of the president.
I mean,
like based on their lives, yeah.
Based on their lives. I mean,
it was a
based on
really
the
short
actual
Wikipedia
daughters.
article.
The daughters of the president is a bit weird.
The
'cause,
presidents.
Like, the president isn't like a entity, but
he's a public figure. So, Adam.
Yeah.
I asked you to come onto this because when I interviewed you, well, it has to be like well over a year now, you brought up that this is one of your favorite musicals.
I did?
Yes.
he's like, wait, what? What was I smoking?
I have no recollection of that. I think this is a brilliant musical. I saw it in New York, and I loved it. I would not say it's one of my favorite musicals. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite Michael John musicals, but I think it's, like all his other musicals, I think it's brilliant and entertaining and a beautiful show. So I do love the show. So that's not wrong. I don't know if I would say it's like a favorite just because I actually don't know it that well and I haven't like learnt the show in the same way I have some of his others where I've listened to them so much or seen multiple productions, you know, Wild Party, Queen of the Mist, shows like that. But I did see it and I did very much appreciate it. So I'm happy to talk about it. My tastes vary, you know, maybe one day my favorite show is First Daughter Suite and the next day it's Cats. Who can say? It's not Cats.
Yeah, it's never Cats. I can say with confidence it will never be Cats.
No, it wasn't. No, it was Cats for like a very brief period when I was a child.
So it was
I saw the national. It was once Cats, but I was probably 8 years old at the time, and I went to see the national tour in Michigan, and my parents bought me like an extra large size Cats logo t-shirt, and I used to belt it like a dress, and I would safety pin a Halloween costume cat's tail onto the back of the belt, and I would crawl around my house like a cat from Cats.
Beautiful.
This is what Cats does to people.
It turns them gay.
I'm just glad you're not a furry, Adam.
Well,
not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong. I'm not a furry, but I'm glad I'm not a furry only because I think it would get awfully hot in there, and those costumes look very expensive. Yeah.
Honestly, it looks like an expensive and uncomfortable hobby.
And also, one of the things that like is enjoyable about having sex is you don't have to wear clothes. I have to tell you, during this pandemic, I've been like naked in my house all day, every day, unless I have to be on a Zoom call or something. I just wake up naked and then I watch TV naked.
He's not wearing pants right now.
I am wearing pants right now. But if you're home alone, which I have been for months, why would you put clothing on? It makes no sense to me. Unless you're like, doing construction work on your house.
What if you have body dysmorphia issues?
Then don't have a mirror.
Or what if you're
because you
never
can look
nude?
down.
Yeah.
Well,
what
if you're never nude.
Never nude?
Yeah, I'm a never
Have you not
nude.
seen Arrested Development?
Yeah, Andrew.
I don't know about never nudes. I'm not into that.
Speaking of never nudes, let's talk about the First Daughter Suite. Adam. Unlike me and Andrew, you actually had the opportunity to see this live. We're just dealing with the album and what that brings. So I'm very curious. For one, what was it like to see it live, and what do you think we'd be missing out from the album?
Well, an album, this is a very well-made album, and it's very comprehensive. I think it's like almost every word of the show. I don't think there's a lot actually missing from the album.
It didn't seem like there was anything missing. Like I was able to follow the entire story and everything. No problem. So,
but what you miss is the visuals. Obviously, it was a beautiful show to look at. The floor was like water underneath a clear sort of stage, and it was just very beautifully done. And then, of course, you miss the liveness of it happening live in front of you and not being
Mary Testa
pre-recorded.
spitting on you.
You miss Mary Testa sitting on you, and you miss,
Sitting on me?
seeing the actors spitting on you. You miss seeing the actors' faces. I mean, this cast of this musical was such a phenomenal cast. They are all like top of their game musical theater actresses. So that was thrilling, honestly, just to be watching them work and then to work on material that is as excellent as this. It was a very exciting night in the theater. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to take us out of the structure that we usually do, which is just free-form discussion. Since there are like a bunch of mini short plays here, I kind of want to talk about each segment in its own right. Like take a moment, talk about each segment. So are we ready to dive into the first one? Or do we have anything we want to prelude it with first?
Well, I would just prelude it with saying that, yes, they're 4 individual segments, but they are all of a piece and they are all connected. And I do think that they while they stand alone maybe in terms of plot and things, I think thematically it's very specific, like how Teresa McCarthy plays ghosts in both of her segments. Every segment features water. The setting for it is some kind of water, and that's, what the stage looked like. So it's all connected in that way. So I'm happy to discuss them separately because they do stand alone, but they're all also of a piece. I don't think anyone would. Yeah.
I kind of wanted to ask if there is a connective, like, what would you call it? Like a plot device or something that like
Framing device of some
framing
sort?
device. Yeah, framing device. I wanted to ask if there was a framing device for this. Because in the album, they don't have that, but it seems like something they could have on a stage show, but
I don't think there was. There was an opening number with all of the women.
Right. Yes.
But I think beyond that, and there was a finale where they all came back out, but I don't think there was any connective tissue visually or anything between the segments.
Okay.
No, other than thematically.
well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
So you described the water segments, and I don't want to harp too much on the visuals and all that because, or get too ahead of ourselves between our preview segment. But Brent Brantley describes it as like vulgar, disgusting sounding, and you just made it sound so beautiful. So like,
He says the show is vulgar? No.
he says the specific water elements are gross. Like he literally writes the word yuck
Oh, well.
because of female
he doesn't work
anatomy
there
or
anymore.
some sort.
What? Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
Come on.
wait.
No,
what?
it's literally water. Like the first segment is about rain. The second segment is about a boat on an ocean. The third segment is about a pool, or takes place, at a pool. And the fourth one takes place looking out over the ocean. It's literally water.
I get it, but he was like writing like, oh, they're all about water and they're women. Yuck.
Ben Brantley said that?
Just bizarre.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I think so.
Well, Ben Brantley doesn't have a job anymore, so there you have it.
You know what,
No
Ben Brantley,
shades
who
of Ben
asked
Brantley.
you?
I thought he gave it quite a good review.
He gave it a good review,
skimmed
but
it
he
earlier.
like, yeah, we're gonna have a segment. We'll get to that. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
We'll dive into Mr. Brantley in a bit. But let's start with the first section, which is Happy Pat between Patricia Nixon and her daughter. Shit, I don't even know which one's which now that I think about it. It's the Nixon family, though.
You pick, you choose, you win, you lose, you fight, you brawl, you try to rise above it all and never surrender, never give in. Surrender is the worst of all mortal sin.
Mother, are you okay?
All the Nixons except for Richard Nixon.
Tricky Dick
Well, yeah,
was
the
missing
women.
that day.
Yeah, all the women. None of the dick.
All right, Andrew, what happens in this scene? Describe it for us.
Okay. Oh boy, which one is the one that's actually planning the wedding?
That's
It's
this
all.
one.
That's this one.
No. I mean, which daughter?
Oh.
Trisha's. It's
Trisha
Trisha's
is
wedding.
the one.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's all at Trisha's wedding, and everything is going wrong because I mean, I guess it's gonna rain, and Richard Nixon is also about to get caught for doing Watergate, which I guess is another water tie-in. There you go.
I mean, it's like rain on your wedding day. It's like Richard Nixon about to get impeached. You know, Alanis Morissette cut that lyrics out, but it was meant to be in there. It makes sense.
Yeah, but they're all fighting about it, and I mean, that's pretty much what's happening. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not much else to it.
This is, in my opinion, the weakest of all the stories, and maybe I'm the lame one, and I'm just not seeing the genius here. But
what I like about it is that everyone in Richard Nixon's family doesn't really like him that much, which is good.
Adam, what do you think?
Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem with us talking about First Daughter Suite, with me talking about First Daughter Suite, certainly, is that I do not know enough historically to, like, I did not know who these women were, with the exception of, obviously, Nancy Reagan and Laura Bush and, like, sort of more contemporary figures. In terms of the daughters, I didn't know who any of them were. I had never heard of them. I don't know my American history. Sadly, I was not alive for most of these sort of, what are they called in the White House? You know, when you are elected and you serve a term. I was not alive for most of these presidential terms, these presidential eras. So I think that knowing more about the daughters, and at the time, if we had been alive, I think it would have been something we were aware of. We would have known that they had a wedding at the White House and that it was a very big deal, and like that the president's daughter got married like during his term. It would have been a huge thing. And of course, it being Nixon, who is so, you know, infamously impeached, and Watergate and the whole situation.
Well, the implication that the wedding is almost a ploy to cover up the media scandal that's about to happen.
Yes. So I think we would be able to appreciate a lot more if we had been around at that time, or maybe you guys know more about like the presidents and their children, but I don't.
Adam
know
Wachter just okay boomered Michael John LaChiusa.
No.
He just did it. It happened in front of you guys.
It's like, yeah, I mean, maybe if I was like an old frick.
No, I'm saying I'm shaming myself, if anything, and saying that I should be more informed and better educated about the presidential families in our nation's history. But I'm not, and I think that if I were, I'd be able to appreciate this musical so much more than I already do. That's what I think. It's specifically about this one, because this one, you're right, not a lot happens in terms of plot, and certainly not like the second one, which is like action adventure territory. Right. And then the third one, which is almost like a play and like family dynamics. The first one, I think, is maybe the hardest one to kind of glean onto.
I mean, it's surprising that the one about Nixon, who is in theory the most infamous of all the presidents covered here, like maybe aside from Bush, just because that's our lifetimes, but is the least interesting, with the least to say, so to say.
Well, because like, it's not really about Nixon at the end of the day. It's about his wife and daughters. And I think he probably eclipsed them so much in terms of infamy because of all the scandal that we speak very little about them, and we don't know that much about them, you know?
Or
like,
could it be that the celebrity culture of politicians' families wasn't quite as big back then? Like, as it ramped up, like, we all know Chelsea Clinton. We all know, like, about Susan Ford and such. Like
Hunter Biden.
They won't
Ivanka
let us
Trump, not know about him.
The Bush twins.
Yeah.
We know about all these people just because they become celebrities. Obama's daughters, if they show up in the background of a TikTok, that's fucking world-breaking news.
Yeah. It is a different world in terms of celebrity, about the presidents themselves and about their families, and just how much coverage and things. And then, of course, we're also alive during those times, so we know about the Clintons because we lived through the Clinton era. Well, I did. I don't know if you guys did, but, you know, yeah.
I know the memes of the Clinton era, and I have been in the same room as Chelsea Clinton, and she gave me popular girl in high school vibes, you know? You know, like she'd be like the one that wouldn't let you sit with them at the lunch table.
Wow.
She would not let you sit with her. I guarantee it,
No,
Jess.
and on Wednesdays she wore pink. She gave me Regina George vibes.
Well, what did we think of the Nixon segment then? Because even with our limited knowledge of the Nixon families,
I mean,
feel
I think
like
the
there's not a
melodies are
narrative.
great. Well, it's the wedding. In go the chairs and out go the chairs. I'll never forget that little phrase. Like, that's such a good little melody, whatever it is. I love it.
yeah.
It's a weird thing to start with, I think, is the way to go. But it also means that you start at a low and then you keep ramping up. I think as they go, they get better than the last one, which is a good thing.
This is the weak one. They had to start with it.
One of these has to be the weak one, and it just happens to be this one. It's not the fault of the scene or the writer or anything like that. It's just by the nature of vignette storytelling.
I guess
Yeah.
if you're ranking vignettes, there's always going to be a weakest one.
All right.
But would
Hello
the
Again's
other
the same
three
way.
would the other three be as strong without this one? I don't know. You know.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, I feel like the weakest subplot in Hello Again is obviously like what the hell is the one, like the One I Love one with the guys like meeting up at a bar. I think that one's the weakest one. And
You do?
I do.
Oh, I don't think that's the weakest one.
Which one do you think's the weakest one?
Now I have to remember them all. It's the what it comes near the end. What happens after Titanic?
That's that one.
I thought Titanic was safe.
No,
that the
Titanic
same-
is we have a little time where he gives him a hand job.
I can't remember.
God. Read up on your Hello.
This is the thing. Michael John LaChiusa is
I don't
so
remember
productive and so prolific. There's so many.
really is.
There are so many musicals, and they're all so dense and so worthy of respect and study and things. But it is hard to like remember them all because there are so many. You know,
And the thing
so
about
many
him
vignettes.
is he has no personality, like in the same way as like a Jason Robert Brown does, where he is a personality in and of himself, and you can hear the guy behind the piano with every single song you hear from him.
Oh, I don't know if I disagree. When I hear something that's Michael John, I immediately know it is.
I don't
musically.
hear him. I hear the style. I don't hear the man, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Maybe that's
What are
just
you
because
trying
he's
to
not
say,
as
Jess?
much of like a celebrity. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I think that like the fact that he isn't in the public eye adds an anonymity to a lot of his work, which I appreciate.
Interesting.
How did they do the water for the rain in the live show?
I don't remember.
Like, what did
I don't
that look
think-
like?
I think it was lighting. I don't think there was actual water.
Well, I'm just curious. You
remember.
mentioned that the other segments,
It's like
it
a
was like
floor. Like I've
it was
seen
like a
clips
floor?
of it.
Yeah, it's not. It wasn't real water. There was like a clear
Yeah.
floor, and then underneath was like fabric that was lit to look like water.
That's interesting.
Maybe it was fabric.
Looks
it might
cool.
have been
I've seen
something
clips.
else. I don't remember. I don't
let's-
think there was actual water, but I could be wrong. It's been years. When did I see this? 2015. You said, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's been like 6 years, almost 6 years, 5.5 years. And I've, had a lot of edibles in the meantime, so I can't remember all of it.
Oh my gosh, Adam Wachter, everybody. Let's talk about Amy Carter's fabulous dream adventure.
If your mom doesn't care if you smoke pot, that's cool.
Amy.
If your mom doesn't care if you have sex before you're married, that's cool.
Amy.
If your mom doesn't care if you draw nipples on your Barbie,
I told you not to do that.
you draw nipples on your Barbie.
Yeah.
See, you're cool. I bet you're never bored because you're the absolutely coolest girl of any girl who's ever been the daughter of a president who's ever lived in the White House.
Now this is
is a
batshit
Wacky
crazy.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, but this
I
is
love-
so
I-
memorable
I-
because
I love
it's so
this.
insane.
It's definitely memorable. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but it's crazy.
I mean, the thing I remember from this, honestly, is not even the child or the violence or the whatever. I remember Allison Fraser as Betty Ford giving the most wackadoo, batshit performance in the best way. Susan! It was crazy. I mean, she is a loon. I think probably like a genius, but this was a performance that I will never forget.
I feel like the entire idea about this literally came from, like, You know, Susan Ford and Carter's girl both had Siamese cats, and they both had racist-ass fucking names. We could do something with that.
Those cat names are freaking wacky, and if you look
What
up...
were they? I don't remember what the cat names are.
Oh my
It was
god.
like Sheen Chang for one of them.
Oh, God.
And one
that
of them
was
like...
that was Ford's, and then...
That was Ford's. And then, like, I should have written this down if I was a smart...
Hang on, I think if you look up Amy Carter, the picture of her on Wikipedia is her with the cat, and it says the cat's name.
It's Misty Malarkey Yin Yang.
Oh, that's right. Misty Malarkey Yang Yang. She sings it, right, in the show.
Yes.
She sings it several times in the show.
Yeah. Wonderful. Oh my god, that's so good.
Like, Sheen Chang is Susan, so I'm like, man, y'all white bitches.
Misty Malarkey Yin Yang. I just don't even understand where does that come from?
Here's some trivia that nobody is going to care about. I grew up very near where Gerald Ford grew up, and I've
Grand
been to
Rapids,
Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I've been to the Gerald R. Ford Museum in Grand Rapids. And I think, isn't it Gerald R. Ford International Airport? That's the Grand Rapids Airport.
Yes.
Yeah, I've flown through that airport many a time.
Does anyone even know what Ford did as president?
He pardoned Richard Nixon, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's like his big thing is like that he let Nixon off the hook.
He fell down a lot. Like, those are the two things you know. He fell down
Apparently,
a lot.
he had a very cool daughter.
Yeah, I suppose so. So this whole segment is a dream sequence.
Yes.
With it's Amy Carter's dream, and she is, for people who don't know, when Jimmy Carter was president, Amy Carter was like 13.
Yeah, she was like the first child in the White House in like many years, so it was like a big deal.
Yeah, so she was like very young, and Amy Carter in this is portrayed as very young. Mm-hmm. So she's having a dream with her mother, and then Betty Ford and Susan Ford, which is the mother-daughter for Gerald Ford as president.
They're on a cruise of some sort on like
they're on the presidential yacht.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it comes to the point where Amy Carter decides that she has to save the Iranian hostages.
No, she gets tricked by Susan Ford that she has to save the Iranian hostages.
Yeah, Susan Ford tricks Amy Carter into trying to save the Iranian hostages.
Therefore, getting Jimmy Carter another term as president, in theory.
Yes. And it just devolves into pure madness.
Pure madness. Everyone dies at one point. Susan dies. Betty Ford dies.
Yeah, but then Susan is revealed to not be dead, and she's actually a racist caricature of an Iranian.
Yeah, she joins the Iranian terrorism, apparently.
And she just says, like, phrases that sound vaguely Middle Eastern or something.
Yeah,
which I think is actually baklava. Which is so brilliant, because if you think about it, it's Amy's dream, so she would only be able to use language in the dream that Amy herself would have heard, so she would be, that's what it sounded like to her, so that's how she actually speaks in the dream.
Yeah,
that's great.
And by the end of it, they all decide to go to Puerto Rico to just party.
Yeah, they apologize to one another, they make up, everyone comes back to life after she kills Susan Ford with her Barbie doll that shoots bullets or something. This
is the most... I didn't expect anything like this in this show. I was like, this is going to be like, sort of biographical events, kind of. And after the first one, I was like, well, that was at least vaguely true, I'm sure. And then this happens, and it's like, whoa!
But I'm glad they set up the rules very early on. Like, Amy has complete control over this. If she wants her mom to quack like a duck, she'll quack like a duck. And she's like the kid from that Twilight Zone episode that everyone has to obey or else they die.
Yeah.
Haven't seen it.
So it's very much... They set up the rules very early on. They follow them. And yeah, it's wacky. Yeah, it's insane. But it is logically consistent with itself. And as a short little idea for a play, it works.
Yeah, it's a dream.
I don't know
and
how
it has an arc. Like, Amy has a full arc in it. Like, that's the other thing.
I don't know how I feel about it being in this show, though.
I think it is a clever way to get an extra, an extra mother-daughter set into it. You know what I mean? Because Betty Ford maybe wouldn't have the Fords maybe wouldn't have had their own segment, so they
Yeah.
get to join the Carters, and then you get to check them all off the list.
It almost feels like the Carters and the Fords both had nothing interesting happen in their real lives, so they're like, well, what do we do with them? And it's just like wacky dream sequence.
What do we know about
true.
What do we know about Jimmy Carter? Iranian crisis. That's why he didn't get reelected. How do we make his daughter in charge of the Iranian crisis somehow?
Dream. What do we know about the Fords?
Well, she was drunk, wasn't she? And she started the Betty Ford Clinic.
Yeah, the rehab facility.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we turned that into a caricature of sorts, and
Yeah. And there we go. I don't know.
I mean,
I think it works. I don't know. Historical fiction of this nature about a 13-year-old. It's a little odd.
I mean, she's an adult now.
Yeah.
I think it's like, I think these shows of his, like this and First Lady Suite and Hello Again and things, they almost don't work to talk about as like broad stroke pieces, you know what I mean, to talk of it as a piece, because every measure of music and every line of dialogue or lyric is like its own little window into the soul of these characters. So I think you're actually right. They don't stand up in a way to discussion as like, okay, what's this entire tangent? What's the plot of it? Because it doesn't have a plot really. This one maybe has the most of any
Yeah, I
of
was
the
about to say,
four.
this one is the most plot-wise.
But it's not about what's happening. It's about how these characters are feeling and how they express that. And so this is all, I think, really an extension of Amy's fear, right, about like leaving the White House if her father doesn't get reelected, and it manifests itself in this way. And then it's not about what happens in the dream. It's about why she's dreaming it, and it's about what these characters are going through and sort of glimpses into their psyches through the portal of this fever dream.
Yeah,
that was
and
very
she's-
in-depth.
I would be interested
was.
to hear what Amy Carter thinks of this.
Amy Carter doesn't do interviews anymore. She's kind of hidden away from public life after, like, she was arrested a bunch, like, in her youth for, like, all of her protesting. Like, she was a badass.
She's
for
done
many
a
years.
lot of really interesting things, and it's almost a shame that they didn't mention any of that in this show.
Yes. She's actually one of the more interesting first daughters, if you think about it.
All of the stuff she did was after she was a first daughter, which is maybe why they didn't do it.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, why? She's not going to do much
But she
while
was
she's a
like
first
she
daughter.
was
She's
like
13.
protesting the CIA, and like I think she got arrested for that and won the case, and it was like a big thing.
Yeah.
She protested apartheid. I mean, this is just on
Yep.
her Wikipedia page. I mean, I'm sure there's more.
She was very active, and I think it would have been interesting to like see a young Amy Carter meet the older version of herself, the radical Amy Carter, and see since we are in theater, we could have a scene like that and see how that works out. I mean, it's better than her trying to stop the Iranian crisis, and the joke being that her cat had a funny name.
True. But I think they both stories have a place, and it's fine to do this. I just would be interested to hear what Amy Carter has to say about the existence of this. Or Susan Ford, either one.
Hey, playwrights out there, write us a play about Amy Carter meeting her
Maybe
older
Michael
self.
John will do another sequel of the suite, and he can do like first daughter grown up suite.
First Son Suite, all about Hunter Biden.
All four of these take place during the term that their fathers are in office,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
it wouldn't be a grown up. Yeah,
In
interesting.
theory is the thing, because the final one,
Yeah,
it
Laura
isn't
Bush?
about.
No.
Laura Bush is a daughter-in-law, and she, at the time, it is George W. who is president. So, she's the first daughter, but it's confusing.
She's really a
Yeah,
first
that's
lady.
true. She's the first lady at the time of the piece, but she was a first daughter-in-law, right? During
Yeah, but that
during
doesn't.
the
That
90s,
story
during-
isn't taking place during the time she's a first daughter-in-law.
No, interesting. It's not. Actually, do you know what it is? Really, the last, well, we haven't gotten to it, but when we do, remind me to say that the last one isn't really about, Laura Bush is not the daughter in the story, right? It's, is it Robin?
Robin,
the
yes,
daughter?
that explains it.
She's the actual daughter that's about. So in that sense, it breaks the mold because it is not during her father's
George
term.
H.W.
No, yeah. Interesting.
All right.
Interesting.
I think now is a good time for a mid-show interruption, if you think about it, because this is where the act break is. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt you in the middle of the show, but we've got a shill at you!
Oh boy.
Today's show is brought to you by the extremely kind donations from our donors over at Patreon. Andrew, what's Patreon and who's donating to us?
Oh boy, Patreon is where you can go if you'd like to donate to us and also get a bit of extra content. Yeah, Jess is making the hand money motion. You could actually see him be doing that if you had Patreon. We give videos for everything now. Okay,
yes, every episode
patrons.
has a video episode, and you get that if you're basically if you pay anything on Patreon, you get that.
You can see me in my own home, unshaven.
He's not even wearing
pants.
clothes. No. Our current patrons are Melissa Goldman, Terry Needleman, John Donna, Max Lunig, Lily Ackles, Danielle Renix, Jess the Stampede, Ewan Cassidy, Taskier, Fire of September, Monica Thoreau, Mina Maniri, Brent Black, Haley Murray, Allison Wonderland, B-Way Flicks, Nathaniel Stacy Coombe, Joseph Evans Green, Carrie Ahern. My goodness, there's so many now.
Doesn't that sound like a party you want to go to?
We'll be having... Oh, no, not that one. What's the other one?
Christine Malmadel, Cole Birchfield, Mary Lou Choquette, John Vanels. Heck you, I go by... Oh my... What is this now? Heck you, I go by Elijah now. All right. That's all, no spaces. Russ Walker, Musical Hell, Emily Gracie, Andrew Van Barson, To Blam, Kyle Summers, Janae C, Kyle, Christina Francis, Felice A, Skylar, Liz Lim, Corey Wilmarth, Allison Staller, Nothing is Certain Except Beth and Taxes, Elizabeth, Thespian, Ren Cullen, Jamie Holland, Wade in the Wings, Lady Malvolia, Spectacle Machine, Jacob Stroop, Robert Benjamin, what is this? Rachel T? I don't want to pronounce this wrong, but whatever. I already did. Jessica Tubis, Genevieve Hartnett, Cassandra, Pina? I don't know. Pina? Mitchell
God.
Young, Dale Windecker Jr., and Chai Teacup or Chia Teacup, one of the two.
That's Chai Teacup.
I said it right
Jesus.
once.
They give us a little extra financial support that helps to keep the lights on here at Musicals with Cheese. If you'd like to join them in supporting us and get tons of fun perks such as patron-only commentaries, our episodes a day early or even earlier, video episodes, and a ton of other free crap, come join them over at Patreon.
Well, it's
All
not
right.
free. They do have to pay for it.
You know what? Shut your whore mouth. It's free if you ignore that payment.
True.
We also have merch.
Yes, we do.
Just go to our website, musicalswithcheese.com, and click the merch button, and you can have our quotes and our logos all over your body. Adam can finally afford to buy a shirt with our name on it, so he's not naked right now. He is 100% naked right now. You will have to get on Patreon to realize, like, oh yeah, they're right. Those are his nipples.
Those are his nipples. I never saw nipples like that before, but wow, those must be his.
They're like
right.
8 inches long. You could hang a coat on them.
All right.
Let's get back to the
it.
show! Patty by the Pool. This one is the least sung through. Like, this is basically just a full-on ass scene.
Do as mommy says, don't give her crap, and mommy will reward you with a slap. Why'd you use my lipstick? Damn, don't do that. Slap. Why'd you eat that cookie? God, you're too fat. Slap. Slap.
I think it's because they couldn't do Nancy Reagan singing.
She sings a bit. She sings a little bit, doesn't she?
Yeah, at the end, like, she really starts to, like... But it's not... It's a character voice that's a little difficult to, like, sound nice singing in.
I think that's
this
a real
one-
voice.
Ooh.
You think that's Nancy Reagan's real voice?
No, I think that's Alison Fraser's real voice.
I don't think that's Alison Fraser's real voice.
No, she's trying to sound like Nancy Reagan. There's
I
no
just
way.
keep thinking about her in trousers, and I'm like, that's not what she sounds like.
Yeah, but that was 30 years ago.
Maybe. Alison Fraser, tell me if that's your real voice. You follow me on Twitter for some reason, so let me know.
I sent a message asking Jess if this is what Nancy Reagan sounds like, because I'm just now realizing I don't think I've ever watched any footage of Nancy Reagan talking.
How have you not?
I don't think I have.
particularly like looking up the Reagans very much.
No. Think what that will do to your Google algorithm. You'll start getting weird QAnon theories and things.
A weird, like, diverging topic. I worked for, like, the military for a little bit, and
like a week.
Yeah, not very long. It did not
As
end
what?
well there. It doesn't matter. I don't want to go into it. But the guy
Is
in
it
the cubicle,
classified?
I mean, just don't want to spit that information out there, to be honest. But the guy in the cubicle next to me had a framed picture of Reagan, and it was like no family, no friends, framed picture of Reagan.
Maybe that was his dad.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Maybe he's Patty Davis's son.
I actually really like this one. I think this one's pretty interesting.
This one's probably the most cynical out of all of them.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's totally fine to be really cynical about the Reagans, though. The Reagans
Yes.
get way too much undeserved praise.
From liberals, too. Liberals are like, oh, the Reagans are the one good, like, you know, conservative presidency.
Do you remember back when
No.
conservatives were good, like the Reagans? Do you remember
Nobody
back
all the
says that.
fucking time from leftists?
Who says that? They like the Reagans?
Straight
I don't-
leftists. Straight leftists that have no gay friends.
Oh,
love
straight
the Reagans.
leftists. Yeah. Well, straight people aren't to be trusted about
I don't know about leftists,
Never.
Jess. I don't know. I think even they don't like Reagan. I think
Let's
it's
call it
just
liberals. Okay, straight white liberals who have never met a gay person in their lives but claim they're pro-gay marriage.
Yes,
Well, I think
they
a lot of
might
people
like
just
the
don't
Reagans.
know. They just don't know what Reagan did. There's a lot of disinformation about Reagan out there. Like a lot.
I'll tell you what Reagan did. Think of how poorly Trump has handled COVID, and now just apply that to AIDS, but worse because he wouldn't even actually talk about it. And that's what Reagan did.
Yeah,
That got dark.
I agree.
We got dark there.
I mean, that's pretty much what Trump wanted to do with COVID. I think COVID
Yeah, just like not
affects
talk
too,
about it.
It affects too
affects-
many people. Yeah.
No, COVID affects too many rich people. The celebrities started getting COVID first, so therefore...
Yeah, and then he had to
Too
start
many
talking about
straight
it.
people. It affects too many
Yeah.
straight
Too many
people.
straight rich people started getting it.
Whereas
Yeah.
with Reagan, he was allowed to just not talk about it because the people that would have forced him to talk about it weren't affected by it, so they don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So fuck the Reagans.
There's also a lot of other stuff that he did that's bad that isn't the AIDS
Yes.
crisis, but
Oh yeah. Like socioeconomics, Reaganomics is like the worst thing. That
Reaganomics has been
Worst.
destroying this country for like 40 years.
and it'll never go away. It's stuck here. Wish. You know what? I know we may have mentioned this earlier before, but this is the first like podcast not under a Trump regime. This is the first Musicals with Cheese episode. To be posted-
assuming there's no violent insurrection that succeeds.
Yeah, because we were
Which a
actually
big
recording
if.
this
There's a
during
big
the
if.
Trump regime. Yeah.
I think we're literally 7 days away from the inauguration as of right now.
Yeah, how about
Yes.
that? Oh my God!
And
Do you
this
know
will
what?
be
What a
posting
perfect.
the day after.
That's perfect. But also, how great! Like at this political time in our country's history to have such a bracingly political musical. There aren't that many musicals like straight up about politics. I think a lot of musicals are like political, maybe in theme, but there's not a lot of musicals that are like set at the White House. You know what I mean?
You got 1776. You've got Hamilton. You've got Evita, kind of.
Well, that's about the Argentinian government, but yeah, you've got
Those are
1600
political-
Pennsylvania Avenue, but no one knows that musical.
Like Hamilton in 1776, though. I haven't seen 1776, so I could be wrong, but I feel like those are mythological politics, though. Like they're not like
They
real
are.
politics. Because they don't even get
True.
they don't even get into what Hamilton believed in or what he did. Like they talk about like what he did, but you know.
But also both of those are about like the birth of the nation. They're not about sort of like the current state.
Well, they're not about Birth of a Nation, but
not about the film Birth of the Nation, but they're about the birth of our nation.
So, Andrew,
Patty by the
what
Pool.
happens in the scene?
I like
Oh
this
yeah,
one.
Patty by the Pool.
This one's very, very fucked up. Nancy Reagan and her rebellious daughter, Patty Davis, which I didn't know much about the Reagan family other than Nancy Reagan, I guess, because she did the whole, like, she did the drugs and stuff, right? Like she did the whole what was it? No,
Wasn't she an
no,
alcoholic?
whatever. I don't remember what she did.
The war on drugs. She did the war on
War on
drugs.
drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure she did lots of drugs as well. All rich people do. But yeah, it's all about the Iran-Contra scandal, which, if you don't know anything about that, that's another good thing to look up about Reagan.
It's like a perfect sequel to Susan Ford and Amy Carter, because that's also kind of about the Iran scandal.
But instead of like failing to save hostages or whatever, it's about directly selling guns to terrorists.
Yes.
Yes. And features the housekeeper, Anita, who's like such a crazy story also.
It's also about Reagan getting away with it, and that's what
Reagan
this story
got away
is
with
about.
Everything.
That's what this story is about, because Patty is going to tell the press about all the bad stuff going on in the Iran-Contra scandal, and Nancy Reagan drugs her and makes her fall unconscious for 3 days.
Now, we have no proof that this actually happened, but
No.
it wouldn't shock me if it did.
I think more so it works metaphorically or something of that nature, like thematically.
That she would have somehow convinced her not to bring this thing public.
And they're just doing it in a very like theatric way, like we're gonna literally poison you and that kind of thing.
But
this one it's about
was very
silencing
good.
opposition. It's
This one was great live because you had Allison Fraser again looking stunning in like I remember a red bathing suit and like the Nancy Reagan hair and the red lip and like lounging on this, sun lounge thing, just looking amazing. And then you had Casey Levy, who's so good and who, in every other show just like stands on stage and belts her face off and is amazing at that. But in this, she does none of that. She's literally getting to like act, and which is what she also does so brilliantly.
I was shocked by her performance because really I've only seen her in Frozen, where she plays Elsa, and she does the Elsa Idina Menzel job that she needs to do. And here I was like shocked, like this is a character and a half.
Yeah, she's a great actor.
Yeah, give her more better roles. Give her like a real hard hitting.
She gets all the roles. What do you mean? Give her more better roles? She stars in every show. She's fine.
I've only ever seen her in Frozen, so like literally.
She's Frozen in
this.
She was the star of Ghost, of course.
Oh, everyone's favorite musical, Ghost.
Everyone's favorite musical, Ghost. She did Wicked as Elphaba for a long time.
Idina Menzel and everyone's favorite musical, Ghost. Got it.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
She starred as Elsa in Frozen. Come on.
So Idina Menzel twice, and then everyone's favorite musical, Ghost.
Okay, fine.
Look, if you're Elsa in Frozen, you are already the biggest
Adele
person.
Dazeem.
You're the biggest person in everything. So,
yeah. No, she's wonderful in this. I think this is a great scene.
Yeah. The Nancy Reagan voice is very menacing.
And how calm it is. Like the fact that it never raises really.
Yeah. It's very it got my blood boiling,
Do you think that that's purposely double cast? That it's the same actress as Betty Ford in the same way that like Teresa McCarthy plays both ghosts, that Allison Fraser plays both of these? I wonder, because they're both sort of drunk characters, but very different. They're so different.
That does make me want to bring up something when we talk about the next one a bit. I think we've really covered everything we want to talk about in that scene in and of itself, and we're kind of racing against the clock at this point. So let's talk about the final scene between Laura Bush and Barbara Bush and Robin Bush.
You remember the day when your little girl died, but did you forget how your little boy cried, how you left him all alone? No wonder all he's known is what he fears. You've made him be afraid of his own tears. What an awful way to live. What an awful life you have. And I should hate you, but that's too good
This scene is my favorite scene, and Mary Testa just comes out like, I'm gonna steal the show from everyone in the final scene. I won't be in it until the final scene, and I'll still be the one everyone talks about. Andrew, what happens in this scene?
So Barbara and Laura Bush are meeting up by the ocean, and it's like something to do with the death of Robin Bush, and Barbara is very disappointed in her son George W. Bush, and it's all character stuff. I mean, it's not like a plot element to this. So
no, it's a great character scene between Barbara and Laura, which is a dynamic you don't really see in a lot of the framings of them in fiction, so to say. So at the go, I'm like, all right, you've got me in this. Like, let's go. And once again, it's the only one that doesn't have the first daughter during the tenure of their father. So this is obviously an outlier there. And of course, Mary Testa is not a double role. She is not playing anything else. She just appears in this scene and exists as Barbara Bush in this scene, which makes it stand out in a third way. This scene is a masterclass in like just scene work, and it's beautiful. It's the reason I think the show exists, to be honest. I feel like you sometimes hear a musical and you hear one song or one scene or one moment and you're like, all right, the rest of this entire musical is formed around this bit.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great. It was devastating to see live. It was so moving. Mm-hmm. It was funny, to start. It was very because it's the most recent in our memory in terms of the real life person, and she's still living, correct? No. Yeah. No. Is
she
Barbara
was
Bush
at the
alive?
time.
She was at the time. Now she's dead. But she was living at the time, so it was very... I mean, a lot of those daughters are still living and things, but they're not in the public eye. In my mind, again, because I'm young, Barbara Bush is probably the one I sort of... And Laura Bush was probably the one I sort of most was familiar with. So to see Mary Testa, who's already such a titanic force of musical theater, come out in this white, curly, like iconic Barbara Bush wig, that I recognized immediately. It was like a bit of a chuckle at first, like, oh, Barbara Bush, because she's sort of a silly character in the world. But then, of course, it got very serious, and the story of it is just devastating, and it's just beautifully written, beautifully played. It's a beautiful piece of musical theater right there. It's great. It's what I aspire to as a writer.
So should she support George's re-election campaign? What do you think?
Well, I mean, that's what's so fascinating about it is it's one man, Michael John LaChiusa's sort of idea of what she might have thought of George W. Bush, because of course Barbara Bush never came out against her own son or his politics or his election or anything like that. She couldn't. But perhaps there was he was such this was pre-Trump, of course, this musical, remember? So at the time, George W. Bush was the biggest buffoon that the White House had ever seen. Now, Donald Trump has knocked that out of the park in a big, big way in terms of a statistic. But at the time, George W. Bush was thought of as this joke, certainly to us in New York. So it was just fascinating to see, obviously Barbara Bush was an intelligent person, and who's to say what her true opinion in her own mind was of her son's tenure as the president.
I mean, this is an interesting way to think about it. Like, you either have the choice of characterizing Barbara Bush as this evil, manipulative character, the granny that they tried to frame her in the news heads, or you could frame her as a legitimately doddering old woman. I think they did a good way of she's kind of mean and harsh to deal with, but also she has an emotional core that makes her immediately sympathetic. Like, the Robin element of it all really makes the scene an emotionally palatable and emotionally empathetic way to view Barbara Bush. And especially how it ends with Laura just tearing her down, and we have the context that she's literally seeing the ghost of her dead daughter there, and it works in that way. And I never thought I'd feel emotionally connected to Barbara Bush in any way. So it was it's a shock to the system, for one. And this is the first scene and song I heard from the show, so this was my introduction to the first daughter suite. It's one of my favorite just overall musical theater pieces. This one scene musical here. It's wonderful.
Now, does it make you feel bad for George W. Bush?
No, nothing could.
No, what are you talking about?
Are you shitting?
This was
is a
interesting for me
fictional
to see
character.
originally because I had seen Teresa McCarthy and Mary Testa play sisters in Queen of the Mist, another Michael John LaChiusa show, one of my actual favorites of his. I had seen them play opposite each other in that. So to revisit the two actresses, and there was a similar sort of thing at the end of Queen of the Mist where different characters came back to Mary Testa as sort of ghost figures or figures in her mind after her character had gone blind. And so it was almost like a revisitation of that moment and a reworking with different people of the same idea, which I found so interesting. Yeah. Have you done a Queen of the Mist episode yet?
We have not. Do you want us to save it for you?
Yeah, I would talk about Queen of the Mist. I've seen it twice. I saw it, the original in New York with Mary Testa, and then I recently saw it in London at the Charing Cross Theatre in a very, very good production.
All right, Adam.
Yeah.
We have a brand new segment since you've been on. It's time for our favorite segment, the great segment. It's time for previews.
It's time for previews. It's time for previews.
Actually, Bree, I could be the jerk, and we could bring back Ben Shapiro for the Ben Brantley section and then have you read the other two.
It's up to Mr. Ben Brantley. Or Ben Shapiro.
Oh.
Ben Shapiro Brantley, you ready to come out?
I mean, I can come out. Is he very negative in this, or?
He is. You're ready for it. He'll be fine.
All right. New York Times head theater critic Ben Brantley said,
Gotta keep that meme going.
okay. In the even more far-reaching First Daughter Suite, judiciously directed by Kirsten Sanderson, who has staged its predecessor, pardon me, I read poorly in this voice, who has also staged its predecessor, which was the First Lady Suite was its predecessor. That's what he's referring to there. Is that correct? The elemental context is water, or as the all-female ensemble sings in a choral prologue, the waters of my birth. Yikes, or maybe yuck.
Oh, I see. He's talking about, like, I see. Placental
Nasty.
amniotic fluids.
You had to think about that, Ben Brantley.
Why bring that up? Okay, I mean, whatever. The limitations of the chamber work suit Mr. LaChiusa. Is that right? LaChiusa?
LaChiusa. Bree, we already cleared this up with Bree.
Suit Michael John, whose large-scale musicals have sometimes seemed to sprawl out of shape and deflate. Working within the confines of this production's self-contained vignettes, his music and his talent seems all the larger for being reined in. Like his captive characters, First Daughter Suite thinks and feels way outside the box.
I only put that in there because of the birth waters of my birth. Yuck.
Yeah, honestly,
That's
everything
literally the
else
only
there
reason
was pretty positive. And
I think
good.
it's a pretty positive review overall.
Yeah,
From
just
my recollection
weird
of it.
Weird that he
And
says
Brantley
yuck about that.
he always puts like a weird, on all his reviews, it was always like a weird, like obsession with a female movie star, or like just weird commenting on people's bodies. I remember like all of his reviews always having some weird thing where you were like, huh? Why did you mention
What?
that?
Sexist gay guy I've ever met.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Is
he's
the-
probably...
Is the waters of my birth really that gross? Like, I guess if you're
Mine
really
were.
thinking like super literally about it. I guess Adam's
the
was.
waters of
Adam
your birth-
says his was disgusting. He remembers swimming around in it, and he's like, yuck.
Well, Bree, why don't you continue Bree's views with the other reviews
Okay.
we have?
The Hollywood Reporter's Frank Sheck-Jones says, although the evening features plenty of emotional and comically resonant moments along the way, familiarity with the historical figures depicted helps greatly. First Daughter Suite is ultimately too trivial and self-indulgent to register as much more than a curiosity. And while LaChiusa?
Nobody can say his name.
Watch Michael John watch this and be like, motherfuckers.
I'm going to say John Michael. He's going to be like, fuck you. Anyway.
John Michael LaChiusa?
No. Oh my god.
Okay, anyway. Mr. Michael's lyrics are often witty.
Mr. Michaels. Mia Michaels lyrics.
George Michael's lyrics to last Christmas are really, really effective.
It's gone too far. It's gone too far. Rein it back.
Okay.
Rein it back.
I can't say his name. Okay. Anyway, LaChiusa. And while LaChiusa lyrics are often witty and his recitative, I can't say recitative, heavy score is mostly tedious and repetitive. It's high style, too often jarring with the sophomoric silliness of proceedings.
Disagree. Strong disagree. Brilliant
he's
score.
giving
Yeah,
strong
Shrek. How
disagree.
dare you write reviews like this?
I'm gonna
You're
say
so
I agree with the first part about knowing the historical figures helps a lot.
Oh, yes. I wish that I could see it again and like research first and watch some documentaries about these women, because I do think it would really help to appreciate. But I have to say, as someone who went in and saw it with embarrassingly little knowledge of the people that it's based on, I was still thrilled by it.
So still
we
a
got
strong
one last
disagree
one.
from Adam.
All right. And then, so AM New York's critic Matt Windman says First Daughter Suite may be uneven and tense, but it is often compelling. As in the other musicals, LaChiusa frequently plays around with style and tone to suit each character. Given the strong possibility that a former First Lady will soon return to the White House is a new capacity. What?
In a new capacity.
What are you talking about?
Oh,
You'll
yeah.
see.
Which would allow a former first daughter to regain her old title. The show is certainly timely.
Didn't work out that way.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Weinman.
I see what so they're saying, they were talking about Hillary.
Yeah. Didn't work out that way.
That's an oof right there.
Right, because at the time, like, she was gearing up, wasn't she, for the run?
Yeah. Because that was the only Democratic frontrunner until Bernie stepped in.
Yeah. Oh my
Didn't
goodness.
work out.
Yeah. What a sad way to end this. So, my friends, what is your overall thoughts on First Daughter Suite and your cheese rating? Adam, you've been on enough times. You know how this works.
I know, but I
You ready to
forgot
go?
to think of a cheese again, but I'll think of something. Well, I will do the obvious. Okay. Well, first of all, my impressions are it's a brilliant musical, much like his other shows. The thing about Michael John LaChiusa, you know, say what you will about him, and I think a lot of people would say a lot of negative things, but say what you will about him, his musicals have an aesthetic. They make them uniquely his, and that make them of a body of work that is recognizable and is so impressive. And this is one chapter in this book of his writing that, you know, fits right in the best way. I think it's very much in his style, but it also shows the growth that he's had since First Lady Suite. And I think it's great. I think it's a great showcase for wonderful actresses. And I think it has a lot of very interesting things to say about a lot of very interesting people. And I'm a big fan of the score as well. And I would say for cheese that can I say it would be like a cheese platter because it's different pieces of cheese all put together. So it's like a quattro formaggio. Isn't that 4 cheese? It's a 4 cheese pizza. I'm changing my answer. It's a 4 cheese pizza or a 4 cheese mac and cheese. It's something with 4 cheeses because it's got 4 distinct parts and they all come together to form a delicious whole. Have I used that before on this show? I feel like I have.
Juliet Antonio, keeper of the cheese, make a note whether he did that.
Did I do that?
In the doc?
No, because it was at Tarrytown, Hello Dolly, and Merrily. No, I wouldn't have done that. I would have said a cheese. So, okay. Yeah, it's a quattro formaggio pizza.
All right.
And it's
Andrew,
pizza's
what about-
Italian, like Michael John LaChiusa.
Exactly. That's actually a really good point. Andrew, how about you?
All right. You know, I think that this is a very interesting show. It has a very good album with a full story that you can follow all the way through just by listening, which is very cool. If you know some of the history behind these people, you'll find it quite interesting. If you don't, you still might like Amy Carter's Fabulous Dream Adventure, because it is just bizarre and wacky, and really you don't need to know anything about any of those characters.
But it's fun.
And you'll probably like the Bush one because, honestly, it's more of a character piece than anything else.
Yeah.
But the whole thing altogether, I think, works as a cohesive piece as well, because the music and the themes of it tie it all together. So I think it's a pretty decent show. I'm going to give it buffalo mozzarella, which is made from water buffalo. It's a water buffalo cheese. And
I get
as we know, the whole show is tied together by water. So there you go.
The waters of my birth.
Yikes, as I should say, or yuck.
Yuck. All right, Bree, how did you like our discussion? What's your cheese rating on that?
First and foremost, I want to apologize to Mr. LaChiusa. I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name.
LaChiusa.
I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name. I apologize, Mr. LaQ. I loved
LAQ.
I loved your guys' discussion. It was fantastic. It makes me want to go watch or listen to this.
Mostly just listen at this
just
point.
Listen, probably.
Because theater doesn't exist at
yes.
the moment.
But, I always like a little history. But I am going...
It is up on Spotify, just to mention.
Oh.
I think we didn't mention that.
Yeah.
I'll give it a listen. But I'm going to give this cauliflower mac and cheese. It is Sasha Obama's one of her favorite recipes.
That's really cute. I love it. I love Sasha Obama. I love both those Obama daughters. They're both
How
very,
old are
very
they now?
cool.
Are they like adults now? I've lost track.
Yeah, they're in their 20s.
That
Oh,
one
good
was
for
like
them.
19, but...
That's like in your 20s.
They're old enough
it's
to
round up.
They're old enough to have a favorite recipe and cook a mac and cheese. That they're not. I picture them in my head as like little girls because that's how we first saw them, obviously. So to think that they're like cooking mac and cheese, which would be complicated even for myself.
Mac and cheese is very difficult, honestly.
I would think it would be, especially a cauliflower mac and cheese. Does the cauliflower replace the cheese or the pasta?
The pasta. It's very good.
Oh.
It's very, very good.
Does it replace the cheese? How would
As
you
a guy
replace
that-
the cheese with cauliflower?
Well, they can make cauliflower into anything nowadays. You can make
How would it
cheese
melt?
out of cauliflower. It would be like a fake cheese. I don't know.
Oh my god.
This is the most baffling
Jess.
thing we've said on this show.
I'm not a big cook.
I really like this show. I think it gets, like, as an album and as a show, it gets better as you watch it, which all great things should. It starts at a good level and then gets to an amazing level by the end of it. I highly recommend it. I think it's, if you enjoyed like Hello Again or LaChiusa's The Wild Party, this is like right in that area. So my cheese rating is going to be... it's a cheese ring made with a pound of grated nuts, a grated onion, mayonnaise, a dash of pepper, chilled and filled with strawberry preserves. That apparently said, according to Rosalind Carter, that is her husband's greatest craving.
Yikes.
In this article.
Good
Or should I
Lord.
say yuck?
Yuck. Honestly, that cheese ring, it really does sound yuck. Strawberry
This is-
preserves with cheese
I'm just telling
and
you,
nuts.
there is an article from the New York Times in December 27th of 1976 by Candy Stroud called Jimmy Carter Cheese Buff, and that was his favorite.
All right,
cheese,
Jimmy Carter is a
apparently.
weird guy, okay? I mean,
He really is.
he really, like, I don't know how he became president or, like, where he came from, but, like...
He's still
He came from
alive.
Peanut
Isn't he?
Farm.
He's still he's like 100.
He is one of my friend's favorite presidents, and he actually traveled to Virginia just to meet him. It was a very strange person. I think he has a bottle
Probably
of Billy
likes
beer.
getting pegged.
He's got a bottle of Billy beer in his basement or something. I can't remember. It's just weird.
Definitely likes getting pegged. Definitely. My favorite president.
Oh, you were talking about Jimmy Carter?
Yeah, Jimmy Carter. Definitely.
You think Jimmy Carter likes to get pegged?
Definitely.
I
Do
don't
you have
think
any doubts?
anybody at the age of 96 is getting pegged. I hate to tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, not with that attitude, Adam.
It's gonna rupture your anus. I mean, come on.
Oh, no.
Well, you know who definitely doesn't like to get pegged, Andrew?
Our patrons?
Our wonderful patrons. Thank you guys for listening.
Is that
We're on
even
iTunes,
true? Do
Spotify,
we know that
Stitcher,
that's
at Musicals
true?
with Cheese. We're on Twitter at Cheesy Musicals, Patreon Musicals with Cheese, Musicals with Cheese on Instagram and YouTube. We have a patron-only podcast. Currently, we're talking about Gallivant on there. We're going to go through all the episodes of Gallivant.
How
It's
is
gonna be a lot of
Gallivant?
fun. It's cheese. It's like the perfect amount of cheese for like a goofy, like, half-hour show. It is a lot of fun.
Is it streaming
I
on
understand why it
something?
won't... Netflix. It's on Netflix.
Oh, maybe I'll give it a try.
Alan Menken writes good songs. Who knew?
True.
Adam, I know you've got a lot of stuff in the world. Promote it all. Let them know where they can find you and what
I
you've got
really
planned.
don't. I really don't have much going on because, well, COVID, and also I'm quite boring. Well, you can follow me on socials at Zebra Adam. You could watch Encore, obviously, on Disney Plus.
It's wonderful. I love it.
Thank you. Oh, of course, you can listen to the cast recording of Tarrytown. All the proceeds go to the Actors Fund. What else? Oh, God, I don't know. I've written some new things, but there's no way to enjoy them at the moment. So...
You can revisit his other episodes of Musicals with
You
Cheese.
can revisit
We talk
my-
about
You could do that.
fisting in our Hello Dolly episode. Come on.
Yeah, what else do I get up to? No, nothing, honestly, very little. You can, no, there's nothing. And quite frankly, I don't post very much online, so I don't know what the point would be to follow me. But do it anyway, because you never know. Sometimes I get a little horny late at night and I'll do a little shirtless story. We'll see what happens.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's I want to say our transcriptions are done by Masha Litvinova. We love you very much, Masha. You're great. Our title card was created by the amazing Jolene Casco. Follow her on Instagram at Jolene Casco. Our keeper of the cheese is Juliet Antonio. Thank you for keeping track of those so we don't have to. Our show is produced by the beautiful, the sweet, the incredible, the kind, the funny, the coolest person I know, Brianna Jones! Thank you to the Broadway Podcast Network for having us on the platform and not kicking us off for talking about Jimmy Carter getting pegged.
We are
is there
not
anything else you
censored
guys-
yet.
We are not censored. We are not a conservative politician, therefore we are not censored.
And we're not Donald Trump, therefore we're not censured. Oh.
Oh! All right, is there anything else you guys want to say before we wrap this on up?
I hope by the time this airs, the world's a better place, and I suspect it will be.
But now they've got Super COVID, and Donald Trump Part 2, the robot, is here.
Oh,
I think-
Jesus.
Either we air this in a Joe Biden America, or we air this in a Donald Trump dictatorship, and we will find out which very soon.
Oh, my
Whoop,
God.
whoop. That's the sound of the police. Whoop, whoop.
Good luck, everyone.
Dark.
Adam, welcome to the Five Timers Club.
Oh, thank you. I'm so thrilled. I'm going to put that right
Don't-
on my resume.
Don't forget to send me your address so I can send you your gift.
Oh, I'll do it right now. What's your number?
You can send it over Facebook, man.
Oh.
I'm not going to put that live on here. All right, on that note, we'll see you next time on Musical.
If anybody wants to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I'll post what the gift ends up being. How about that?
Of course. He better be, or else I'd be very angry, to be honest. All right, see you next time, folks.
Bye.
My beautiful mind is so beautiful because I'm Barbara Bush. That's the lyrics, right?